neither here nor there. It's like watching England at an international game.
Bro, it's why do you always have to come for my country in these episodes? Why do you always have to bring it back to coming for my countrymen? That's at least we're like still deep into a major tournament. Let's talk about Canada football one of these days. But
Canada, Copa de Americas, we're doing well there. We made it through.
Oh, that's why the Americas! Oh, the Americas! Oh, the Americas!
You know what's funny? Actually, just before we start, Relic always says like, "Oh, you're so small, And okay, granted, yeah. I'm not tall, but whenever I'm walking here in Brazil, the ladies are shorter than me. I was never a short woman in Brazil. I was never the shortest kid. I was never like the shortest lady. I'm just medium to tall. I will say. Tall. Yeah.
On the Brazilian scale.
On the Brazilian scale, we're just small ladies.
They're not small, condensed.
Yeah.
Condensed, we're condensed milk. I mean, that's the main ingredient for brigadeiro, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they're all 50% condensed milk by this point. Just once you've had it that much.
Okay.
Okay, right. That's good stuff. Okay, let's just get into it.
On that note.
Welcome, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. This is episode 6 for Split 2. As you can tell, we're all a little bit giggly now, which is good, because I was very sad this morning, but I've already been here for like 10 minutes, and I've already been cheered up just hanging out with my fellow CBLOL English compatriots, and we get to talk about some more CBLOL. So it's all uphill from here, guys. It's all uphill from here. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by myself, Chad and RMC, and we have the first Super Week to talk about. Now, I didn't put any more thought into what I was going to do or say after this point, so RMC, what would you like to talk about first? Lead us off, give us something to discuss.
That's fine, that's fair, Trajan. I mean, I doubt the teams put that much thought into Super Week after watching the way they played. Kind of shots fired. So
head's empty.
You know what? Why don't first impressions? What were our first impressions of Super Week? I'll start. I already kind of suggested. Like I thought it was really chaotic, really messy. I thought we took some steps back for some of these teams right now. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, some of those gaps are on the same page. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, like we had that Liberty loss match as well there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, myself and RMC, we were casting on Saturday, and we were talking about that game from Friday, and we said, RMC specifically said, loss is not that Liberty won, is that loss lost, because it's just the way they played. They weren't supposed to lose the game, but they did, and Liberty wasn't really playing to win. I don't envy you guys
for covering that one. I'll be honest.
It was interesting. It was interesting, but we got some interesting as well on the Saturday. KaBuM Liberty, not that much, but INTZ loss was kind of interesting. Red VKS was definitely much more up there. Red just trying to pick up some of that pace and that usual aggression that you would expect from Red in previous splits. They have been sleeping so far, but against VKS, they said, okay, that's top of the standings. We know we need to perform. We know we need to get the wins from here if we have been struggling with the other teams, and especially because, of course, that was the first day of second round robin. You want to really come back into the regular season with, all right, we have a strategy, we have a game plan, and we know how to execute it. I'm not going to say they were absolutely great on it. They didn't win, but it showed Red much more of the usual Red where
Red was back, they were so back last week, and not winning their games is part of being so back, as Red, like you can just play like that, and sometimes you just can't get over the line, but they looked so much better. Let's just start from the bottom this week, I guess, from the table, because we normally go top down by the way it goes. So We'll do Red just because we're on them, and then we'll dive in a little bit more Liberty and Lost. But for Red, this is the continuation of the Coelho back at the top. Nelson's out for 2 weeks now, and they do just look better. They just look better than they did before. The games look better. They got another win. They looked competitive against Loud. It's like there was just nothing different from the last time when they bring Nelson in. Nothing seems to go right. They kick him out, and they just go right back to what was working before, and it starts kind of working again. So maybe, maybe it'll only be twice that they do this.
Well,
Third,
the
but
thing
we'll
is,
see.
I think Titan has said it too with Red, is that they just keep going back to what works for them.
Yeah.
Right? They ultimately always fall back to that style. And the style is solid. It's steady. We've seen Red do decently well with the style. The problem, though, is that the rest of the league has moved on. The top of the table has moved higher up. That style will get you to the middle of the table. I'm not confident that playing that way, Red's even going to make top 4.
Well, no,
I
they've
mean,
got a
they'll
way
make
to
playoffs,
go.
but-
They're in 8th right now,
Sure.
you know, and
Yeah.
it's
Well,
they're like as we'll get onto later. Some of these other teams are slowing down a bit, but like we say, Red still aren't. Their style has never been one of consistent VKS style strategic dominance. You know what I mean? And like sometimes that just doesn't work. Sometimes you beat Loud, and you're like, oh man, maybe this is the one. And sometimes you just topple over and look embarrassing. So.
Yeah.
It's maybe the only problem here is that maybe that they wasted half a split trying to not be themselves and then decided to just be themselves anyway.
Yeah.
So there was just no growth achieved and there's so much wasted time.
To be fair to Red, between 8th and 6th, which is playoffs, there's only 2 wins difference between them. So we've still got another, 8 games, 7 games?
You could knock
7
that out in
games
a
left.
Super Week without too much problem. The next Super Week. They could jump in. And I'm trying to think. So I'm looking at like their records and to see like who are they yet to play again. Like they've done Louder and got the win in second round robin against Loud. That's like nice, very good. Lost to VKS, fine, okay. They're literally joint first right now. There's plenty of they've got a Liberty match to play. You know they've got a KaBuM match to play, which they lost last time, and you know maybe it's not so easy. So like now I was trying to go into this like. Well, maybe they've got easy matches to still go through. They kind of don't have easy matches.
So the only teams they've played in the second round robin so far are Loud and VKS.
Yeah.
Who are both top 3 teams.
So they shouldn't be easier in theory.
Yeah.
Besides
so the only like super hard one they have left is Pain Gaming, and that's assuming Pain Gaming don't slump at some point. Coming up. Yeah, and then everybody else is like technically beatable. Like KaBuM's going up, but KaBuM's in the same space as Red. Trajan, they are 7th. They only have 1 win above Red right now. So, like, you know, Red and KaBuM are sort of the dark horses that might sprout up. I think for Red, the win over Loud is massive for them in terms of trying to come back into the playoff standings.
Yeah.
The loss to Kate Stars is kind of just expected or par for the course. That doesn't upset anybody or anything. So the second round robin is still wide open for this Red Candidates roster.
And going up in the standings as well, like you mentioned, so Red and KaBuM very, very close. KaBuM on 5-6, Red on 4 and 7. If you go further up, like FURIA INTZ, I think there's also a kind of sprinkle of inconsistency in their gameplays that can allow for Red or KaBuM to go back up to top 6. Not back up, I mean, considering like previous splits, because they have been bottom of the standings this split so far.
Nowhere near this split.
Nowhere near, but I just feel like there is some place to go through because, as you guys were mentioning, there is such a big gap from top 1, 2, 3, like 9 and 2 for Pain and VKS, for the difference that you have for that core middle 4th, 5th, and 6th place. So there is a wiggle room that could be really interesting. And considering what we saw from Red this past week, I think there is enough change from them, even if it is just to come back for the previous style. If it works, it works. Don't change what isn't broken. And I feel like they have to maintain that way because that's what their players know. They know being a little bit chaotic. They know being aggressive. They know taking action and being proactive. So if that's what it takes, then just do it. It's fine. If you get to top 6 and it's playoffs, of course, it's different. You're not talking about best of 1s anymore. You're talking about best of 3s. You have enough time to go for that because we have just started, that double round robin. So I think there's still a chance, and I am a little more optimistic for Red Candidates. I think FURIA are still a bit like that for me. I think Fluxo is still going to maintain a steady top 4 place. I don't think they're going to drop that much more. So we got some laughs, some opinions, some strong opinions around here. But I have some good feelings about Fluxo and the fact that they have made here so far, especially because when Karok spoke to us on interview, one of the first teams he said, aside from Pain and VKS, to go to playoffs was Fluxo. He was actually very impressed with Sheeny, with Trigo. And to me, that is very high praise coming out from Croc. So I got some of those feelings to also contaminate my own judgment.
We'll get onto that mid pack in a moment, because that is very, very interesting. It's kind of maybe the most interesting part right now. But to touch on Lost and Liberty before we step up into more hopeful waters, bearing in mind, following on from Red, that, you know, I'm also more positive on Red objectively as I was. This feels like a team that can do more than they could do before just by being Red. I don't think you're ever going to win CPLOL again doing that, but I think you could make playoffs like that and do something more. But this is also the team that has given Lost their only win, still their only win of the split. 1-10 now are Los Grandes, looking more hopeless by the day, more impossible to win games that they shouldn't lose, you know, and it seems like it's really deep into that INTZ zone where you're like, the gods have just cursed you cannot win. It doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. And that is very, very sad for Lost. So when does the Academy roster start coming in? When do the subs arrive?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Everyone's doing it. Liberty's tried it. They got a couple W's, you know, KaBuM doing it. They're on a tear of sorts, comparatively speaking. So, RMC, do you think there is an angle to try and change anything at Lost, or are we just going to write this one off and go next?
The problem is, if you're bringing in Academy players, if you're going to promote and demote, who do you demote on the main roster for Los Grandes?
C's.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know who Lost Academy's jungler is, to be clear, but I think C's
it's Nero. He's new.
Sure. Okay, complete coin flip then, doing that, I suppose. Because C's was a very reliable, high-floor role-playing jungler that we're just not getting the same activation out of. I don't think he's playing differently, necessarily. I think it just doesn't work anymore. Like, this formula, suddenly, he just doesn't mesh. And, like, to be fair, the whole team doesn't mesh. But, like... I don't think you drop Super Clever. This is more of a process of elimination rather than like seizes the problem kind of angle. Super Clever, I don't think is the problem. Envy, I don't think you actually solve much by dropping Envy personally. I know a lot of people are much more down on Envy this split, and he has had a worse split, but for me, this is more just like I feel like you have a better chance of seeing a directional change in the team by swapping C's maybe and or KaBi, which also hurts because KaBi was so good last split, but I don't super think he's meshing in the same way as he was before. So I think it has to be jungle support personally if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
That's fair. I think that the support from Los Grandes Academy currently is Nero, and he's sort of a new name. I actually like his playstyle. I think he's quite measured and quite smart. But like, to me, going from like not even playing comp, not even playing tier 2 to tier 1 within a split is always a big ask.
Yeah, that's tough.
Right.
Sorry, let me fix your team, brTT. Let me just fix what you're doing right now. I'm going to come in and stop you embarrassing yourself, brTT, because this is not good. So, as
honestly,
tier 2 jungler.
The person who I actually think is having the most problems right now on that Los Grandes roster is brTT. Like, I love the man. He's a living legend.
He's not having a good time.
But when you're the only change in this roster and it's all falling apart, when you have the lowest DPM of all AD carries, not named Mikal,
I was about to say, let's not. Hang on, I know who surely
just doesn't exist anymore.
That.
We'll get to Mikal. We talk about Liberty. To me, it does feel like a bit of a brTT angle that he is the issue. Like, genuinely, if I was Los Grandes right now, I'd be looking like, hey, guys, where's Cello? Like, any shot we can pull this guy back.
Where's he at?
Like, unironically, and Los Grandes at this point, it's the same issue that's been happening all split. We talked about it before. They're just not meshing, right? Individually, Super Clever is doing well, and V's still pumping out numbers. Yeah, I'm not happy with how C's has been performing, but as you pointed out, C's is not the problem. He's just very strongly not the answer. KaBi is a huge surprise to me. I think KaBi has been the biggest downgrade for this team this split compared to how he performed last split. But how much of that is tied to brTT? right? Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that
yeah.
brTT is directly screwing KaBuM over, but when your bot lane don't mesh, problems happen. And I think KaBuM has looked best when he's not in the bot lane, when he's roaming without brTT. So that makes me wonder, like, how much of KaBuM's performance issues are because he's being paired with brTT, and perhaps they're just not connecting well. Yeah, and again, it's kind of weird when you consider brTT has been playing with like Korean supports for a long time, so KaBuM should slot right in there, but it just kind of didn't work. So as far as I'm concerned, Los Grandes, I'm not seeing them fix their problems anytime soon. I think they are very, very much lost right now in a whole bunch of other issues. My biggest question is, how bad can this team get? And after this last Super Week on Friday, when they lost to Liberty, they have hit brand new lows. I genuinely don't see how it could get worse, but I feel like I feel like they can't get worse, but at the same time, my brain's telling me, "Oh yes, RMC. Oh yes, it can." So at this point, I'm just watching to see what happens to this team.
They're just breaking the floor. There's not breaking the glass ceiling. They're just full up fumbling and breaking the floor.
They're not eliminated from playoffs, are they yet? Because we're only just into the second round. Surely they can't be eliminated.
Mathematically, no. Realistically, I suspect the hit-to-hits, pretty much.
I'm on the same page. And it's so unfortunate as well because, I feel like C's hasn't been performing really well, but I also don't think that he's a problem as you guys do. I think KaBuM has been a problem here because brTT and him just don't work well together.
Yeah.
Most of the times. I noticed a couple of things for Los Grandes, especially about draft, where sometimes if they give a tool for Super Clever to carry, they do a little bit better. It's not that they have won because they have won just one game, but they have been doing a little bit better. But when they decide to do, okay, so this draft is focused on brTT, is focused on bot lanes, trying to get something towards Drake, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. If you try to give any advantage to brTT, it's just not converting. As you say, RMC, most of the time, KaBuM is doing better when he's roaming. So outside of that bot lane and trying to convert something else for Envy, which has been much steady in comparison to the bot lane of Los Grandes. So it's all good individual pieces that just don't form a cohesive puzzle. And it's so unfortunate because I just feel bad. Like when you ask, well, what's the problem? I feel bad in saying that brTT is the problem. I respect the guy like so massively.
I'm maybe just like refusing to see it, or maybe just being like, they'd never change it. They'd never drop him.
No, I don't think they'll change it.
It's just
they would never. The amount of money invested. Can you imagine?
Yeah, like how do we fix this team? The answer, even if the answer is brTT, it's never going to be the one they choose,
But guys, I have the answer for Los Grandes, actually, to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Bring on Scary.
Oh, true, actually. That's how you do it. Proven solution. Yeah. Proven.
If Scary could fix KaBuM, he can fix those.
Dynamic fixer. Scary.
Yeah, the vibes guy.
He is the vibes guy.
The vibes guy, yes.
Vibes guy. Get him in there, okay? My word. Right, let's talk about Liberty. 2 wins now. Yeah. Leandrinn Draven W defeated Los Grandes Pog. Does anyone? So I guess we've at least gotten off the starting pad for Liberty here. Again, it's probably too late to make serious inroads, but they're not that far behind. Do we think that we saw some overall significant boost here, or was it just that they won 2 games, one of which was against the worst team in the league? Do we think they're better than they were last week? Do we think that the new Levizin and Leandrinn factor is affecting them positively, or?
I would say so.
Yeah,
I would say it is affecting them positively, not exactly like game-changing,
not scary
kind of way, but
like, it's not.
That was definitely something. The vibe check is not off the charts yet, but it feels like there's something. Again, when you have like a couple of players coming out from academy and they join with that much more freshness, that much more enthusiasm, that much more, I wouldn't say focus, but definitely determination, because you need to prove yourself like twice as much. There is something that does help spicing it up. Is it like enough? I don't think it is. Given that they are 2-9 at the moment, it's already a very you know, not optimistic place to begin with for these academy players to be thinking we are going to pick this game and this team back up from the floor. But at least to bring them up a little bit, it can be enough. And that's why it's such a big problem for Los Grandes as well, because what do you change? Who do you bring? Do you even do any changes? And if you just keep with the same formula, you're just going to lose. So good on Liberty for bringing these players in, and especially, as I know you have a very strong thoughts about it, having Mikal out of the rotation for Liberty.
Yeah.
Talk to
That,
me. Talk to us.
Is
RC.
the right answer. Yeah, hey, tell us about. Give us some numbers. Give us some data to engage
Give us
with here.
the
RC.
juicy
We know that you
stats.
love a stat or two.
I mean, Mikal writes his own story in a way. So, with Liberty, I will say though that they are expecting about where I expected them to perform when they swapped in Leandrinn and Levizin. So Levizin coming in over Drake Hero to me, it's kind of like a side grade. I think they're both comparable, slightly different styles. I think Drake Hero was not as energetic as we saw him in Academy.
Yeah.
I'd almost have preferred AC, honestly, with the way they both performed in CB LoL. But
Gotta get
I think
that
Levizin
IDL
coming in.
I don't know.
Yeah. He's doing well there. So,
Yeah.
well, he's doing okay there. I mean, Levizin coming in fills a role that they need, right? I think the big change was Levizin, and it's because of Mikal, as y'all pointed out. Mikal, he has been doing this for splits now. He had the lowest damage per minute of all AD carries. And yeah, granted, there's a Senna game somewhere in there. But let's not forget what Mikal did last split with Senna. His damage numbers were actually half decent last split. This split is not the hyperscaling bot lane. Smolder's out, Senna's out. Well, Smolder's coming back in, but he's still out. Senna's out. And Mikal was doing 371 TPM. In comparison, brTT does 417. And brTT is the next lowest guy. Let's take a look at the top of the table for AD carries. You've got Smiley at 764. Who's double what Mikal was pumping out. So I think bring Leandrinn in was a massive upgrade in terms of how Liberty wanted to play. If you're going to play Draven, if you're going to play Kalista, if you're going to play Lucian, play Leandrinn. It made zero sense to play with Mikal. So super happy that Leandrinn's in. Folks in CB LoL, remember, Leandrinn started as a Quinn one trick. And then they switched over to Draven. Yeah, so they were known as a Quinn one trick initially. And then because Quinn's not a real AD carry, they picked up Draven instead. Kind of similar.
There you go.
Play like mindset for the two champions. So ban Draven. Don't ego against Liberty. Ban your Darius, ban your Olaf, ban your Draven, and you'll be fine. Liberty picking up the win against Los to me was somewhat expected. Or not expect. I did vote Los Grandes, but it didn't shock me the way Los has been playing. Their win against INTZ, that was ego from INTZ to leave the Draven open. I also like the fact that Pilot's going back to Azir, even though it's not really meta. It's a comfort champion for Pilot and something that he has a ton of teamfight impact on. So now that we've seen that, I expect teams to prep for either the Azir or Draven, ban the other one, and I think Liberty will pick up one more win this split, and that's it.
It's like in a straight game of like, you know, over the board League of Legends, Liberty doesn't beat anybody, but if you give them like the second queen that is the Draven, or like, you know, what used to be the Darius, if you give them an unfair advantage in that way, they will use it. But just like make them play the same game as you, and they're not gonna beat you at it. You know, they'll beat Loss maybe, but once again, they are cursed. To be clear, it's not Loss's fault at that point. It's impossible to win. So
or unless Red hire
Red really just managed to. They're always mold breaking. You know, Red. They're always stepping outside the lines. But so with Liberty, it just feels like there's not like a huge amount of room to go here. It's good to see them getting some wins, good to see them finding new strategies. I like the Pilot Azir as well, but again, it's like Pilot, another player now has a special pick that if you give them their special pick, they'll do loads of cool stuff on it, but there is a ban phase in League, and unfortunately, it might just prove too powerful of a tool. So yeah, I think they could probably get one or two more, especially with the mid-pack just struggling to look as clean as they did before. But we'll see if there's any more dynamic shifts left for this team, I suppose, because they've got this now. We'll see if this settles into a strategy, or if they will then show some improvement, or if we'll just be like, well, they made a slightly better one, but it's going to go, 3-15 and not 2-16. So We'll see.
Still happy for them though.
Yeah, get the dub, Leandrinn, big pog. We love a Draven W.
Yeah, I got my good Draven game. I'm happy.
Yeah, we're not somebody who we should not name again is slacking on the good Draven games these days. So we need someone.
I was so upset when they banned it in their game, like the Liberty Los game. Los banned it. I was like, why?
Yeah, just let yourself have fun for once, my guy. But alas, well, I mean, they let him have fun once, and he didn't actually have any fun. So, yeah. Anyway, Liberty. We'll see about that. We talked about Red. KaBuM Esports 2-1. Just as I had given up all hope. Everybody, here we are, 5-6, in the mix for playoffs again. Scary pipe, significant share. We're passing it around now. We're all getting a go, and the team just looks like they have an idea of how to play League again, which is good. And this really was the problem before. It felt like they didn't know how to play as a team together, and now they just do, because, you know, the Vibes guy is here, and they're able to do 5v5s. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Even the bot lane remembered how to play just by having a different jungler, which is bonkers.
True.
Like, it's something's just clicked, I guess. Do we think?
And there's some variety as well there. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, fine. Go ahead with your with your way you were going to take it.
I was just going to say the scary, not just the vibes, Jackie. He brings quite a lot of variety. So we saw the AP junglers from the Zyra, from the brand coming in, which is very nice and refreshing for the league in general. But you also have the Vi, which, you know, very straightforward front to back kind of jungler, can have so much pressure and control around the map when you are slightly ahead of your enemy jungler. So I think overall, like, KaBuM can be in a better place. I think they are, and they can be in an even better place. So right now being on 7th on 5-6, which is, if you think about it, oh my god, it's 7th. But if you look at Fluxo, FURIA, and INTZ, they're all the 3 titles 6 and 5, which is just that bit closer to KaBuM as well. So there's just so much room for that much change, which I mentioned earlier as well. And I think KaBuM is feeling much more steady, much more comfortable and consistent right now because of these changes. Lonely, scary, things just start to mash up together. And I feel like scary enables House in a much better way than Malrang not ever did, but then Malrang was doing.
Yeah. And I feel like ever did.
Yeah, okay. All right. I will abide by that then. And that really just brings the team to a new level, because House has been so consistently good, so much good damage, CS, and pressure that you can have, especially with the old Corki, just going around the map, packages, doing all that stuff that makes KaBuM just feel like you have some hope. And I feel like this is the moment where you can have hope for KaBuM. So that's you, Trajan. You can feel a little more hopeful. I will allow it.
House is gaming again. You know, I love it when House games, and there's been a while he's had a little bit of a flat start. He was never like full useless, but like he wasn't as high as before. But now he's right back up. He's up at the top of DPM charts again. He's still doing a heck of a lot. He's getting funneled gold, and there's a team around him that can enable him to use it, I suppose. Because before he would get funneled gold, and then he wouldn't be able to 1v9 the games, basically. The teams he would not be allowed to do that. Well, but now he has other threats and support to help him do that. Especially if you're playing like Ezreal mid, you know, you're not going to 1v9 with Ezreal mid if you have no one to help you anywhere. You know, you need some sort of backup, and that's what he has. You know, this is not like a nightmare scaling pick. It's a mid game pick, and they won with a really strong mid game with it. It's good to see. It's encouraging for sure. I don't know if I'm gonna get hopeful yet. I've been burned. I've been hurt too many times, guys. But at the very least, I'm taking it game by game, and I can, like I say, I can have games where I can watch House have a big mid-game performance. I'm happy. That's all I need, you know?
Fair enough, folks. Clip it, save it. We'll check back on Trajan at the end of the split, and we'll see how high on KaBuM he is. Because
oh no,
personally, I think KaBuM's going to do well. Okay, what I'm going to say next is utter conjecture, but I suspect, at least the way I'm watching it play was, with Malrang in the past, it felt like everybody on KaBuM was afraid to make mistakes. Nobody was willing to mess up. Like, Malrang is a quite intelligent jungler, so he ganks when he thinks there's a chance. He's not going to waste ganks for no reason. And that's why I hesitate a bit when we were saying we're funneling House, because I feel like House was getting ganks because his lane was set up best for ganks for Malrang. But Malrang wasn't like hard camping that lane. He wasn't just like inting his face off to get House action.
Yeah.
Whereas Scary will int his face off for his lanes if his lanes ask for it. Like, I'm watching some of his ganks. I'm like, okay, Scary. Like, surely we're not. Oh, okay, we are doing this. And it works out, right? Like, House ends up walking away for a 2-for-1, and Scary ends up feeding first blood. But it's fine, because House is actually getting funneled. Same with bot side, right? Like, he'll gank bot, and it'll be a gank where I'm like, I feel like Seos has to play this perfectly for it to go off. And if it doesn't end perfectly, Scary's dead. And it works because, you know, Seos is still a pretty good player, and Scary is not afraid to die. His initiations with Brand shock me. Also, can I just say, Brand as a champion right now is so busted in CBLOL, partially because the CBLOL teams have actually gotten worse from last split. Last split, when Yampy pulled it out, teams knew how not to group and eat pyroclasms to the face. You'd see like jungle mid, as soon as pyroclasm goes off, they split. Bot side, you know, like as soon as it goes off, they split. This split, for whatever ungodly reason, I am watching Brands 1v2 because they'll stand right next to each other and just eat the pyroclasms bouncing back and forth. I'm watching Scary just initiate with his face going, oh, he pressed R. His job is done because everybody's just eating the damage. It was the Liberty game where he played the Brand. Like, guys, Brand
isn't the same problem with Zyra as well. Like, there's more jungle challenges in the meta where you have to split than ever. And we've forgotten how to play against all of them at the same time, which is crazy.
Like literally my eye test right now is if you play against a Zyra or Brand, how badly are you getting wrecked in the team fight? If you can survive the team fight, you're a top half team. If you can't handle the ult, then you're a bottom half team right now. And I don't know why CBLOL has been taking steps back, but this week especially because of the prevalence of Brand and Zyra after the last week, after the week before, pardon me. This weekend looked particularly chaotic because of those picks. But I like that Scary's playing them well. It's working well for KaBuM. I like that he's willing to go face first regardless what champion. And because of that, I think it's great for KaBuM's atmosphere. I feel like Natuno is not as stressed. That's why we're seeing him play a lot better as well. Because now, hey, even if I int a little bit, right, there's somebody on my team who's going to int worse and will int on command. So, yeah, I think this is actually really, really good for KaBuM's. I know we joked about Vibes Guy, but watching them this weekend made me think, wait, actually, genuinely, this might be what KaBuM needed to return back to old.
Yeah, we know the skill was always there. We can briefly mention the post that Malrang did after getting benched, where he was basically alleging that the players didn't respond well to the coaching, is the impression I took, that they were asking for reviews, that they were trying to get help, but that they would either, it wasn't clear whether he was implying that intentionally they were not acting on that help, or if the help was not helping, but ultimately there was it did not seem like there was a productive relationship between the coaches and the players, according to Malrang at that point. They were not improving together, it seemed like. And that is obviously worrying. It's not surprising, as you guys know. I've already been down on the KaBuM coaching stuff before, and this is even like a new coaching stuff with Ares as well. It's not just Von, but it still didn't feel like it was doing anything. So it felt like they were not improving. They weren't learning to play. They were in fact unlearning how to play together almost. But then as soon as Scary comes back in, they remembered. So, you know, we'll take it with a pinch of salt. It was a random tweet from Malrang with minimal context and somewhat unclear meaning due to English not being first language. So, but it seems like internally they just weren't, whatever the formula was going on, they weren't having a productive time between like coaching and players. And now whatever they've done, like the players didn't need to be taught how to be mechanically good and how to be skilled at League, I don't think necessarily. It's just that now they're all on the same page again. And, you know, as we said, it's not perfect. They're not winning every game, but they're certainly winning the games that these players should be winning. And, you know, I'm here for it. I think the one thing that I don't really get is like the bot lane just being good. And I hope, again, it was a bot lane that always should have been amazing and was horrendously bad. And now we're just kind of like, maybe we've just put it together and maybe we can, It seems like a good meta for Netuno because Lucian is playable and Scalers are playable, and he's good at both of them. And Seos can just play Engage every game, and he can also play Nami. Like it seems really solid for them if they can get it together, and maybe they have. So
yeah, 100%. I personally think it's just Netuno. The pressure on Netuno has been too high since he came in, and he's always either like the main carry of the team, or he's just like stuck in a crap team, right? Like I think their best split was 2022 split 1. They finished 3rd, and that was the FNB, Goot, Envy, Netuno, Ripid roster. I think he did best because FNB could always take pressure off of Netuno, right? And opposite side of the map, it freed up Netuno a lot more. And I think the problem with that was supposed to be what this KaBuM roster was supposed to be, right? Where Netuno doesn't have to be like the 100% carry.
Yeah,
you've got House and you've got Lonely.
Yeah,
exactly. But then because I think, ironically, the team was too perfect, and so like I said, I think everybody was too scared to make mistakes, and that's why now Scary's coming in.
Yeah.
Netuno is in a perfect spot where he's not expected to be 100% carry, but if you can, great, but you don't have to be. At the same time, like, don't be afraid to mess up because like the vibes guy is there. Either he'll cover you, he'll be doing this. Like you've got your team, he can back you up. And I just want to quickly touch on Lonely as well because I thought Lonely had an amazing weekend. In Academy, he didn't look great, by the way. So coming back in, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Vitel's doing well. Do we really need Lonely? I guess that the time in Academy woke Lonely up to the fact that, hey, if you don't perform, you're going back down there. So do well.
You don't want to be down there.
Just humbled him.
It's worse down there. You don't want to be down there. Like, and I've always been a Lonely defender since last split. You can check all the podcast episodes from last split. I've always been a Lonely defender, and I will remain so. For the time being, I will remain so because I think he deserves defending. Sometimes.
This weekend was great for him. His
yes, he had a good weekend. Okay, right. Let's get into the fallen heroes. Well, FURIA doesn't count, but like Fluxo and INTZ, the chosen ones that have gone from 6-0 in Fluxo's case to 6-5. This is like the nightmare tumbling that we had worried about and that our viewers and the questions had worried about a couple weeks ago has come to pass. And then INTZ have just settled back into kind of being a mid-pack team, I guess. And that's where we thought they'd be because they have 2 rookies in their solo lanes. And they had a really bad last year. So we're like, this is encouraging, but I don't know if it's going to be that good. And that's kind of where we've averaged to. So it's kind of fine, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like they're both where I personally expected them to be beginning of the split. How they got here to me is the much more interesting.
Yeah, that was a ride. But we found up here.
Like INTZ, they are about where we expect, as you point out, double rookies, right? Like they're not the most mechanical team. I still think their teamwork is absolutely on point, but I expect them to be like 4-6 or like 5-6 more realistically. Because if teams outhands them, then you get outhands, right?
Yeah,
they're a little without firepower, but yeah, I like the concept here. Yampian damage, I think, has always been solid. Like they had good games and bad games, but conceptually, I love these 2 players together. I think they're very good as a decision-making core. And then it's just about you've got 2 rookies and a Ninja Kiwi who is just not. He's still good, but he has settled, I think, into a relatively mid-level in the grand scheme of the rest of the AD carries. Can have his big pop-off games. Can also make some pretty boneheaded bumbles in team fights. But he's he's a solid carry option for a 4th to 6th place team, for sure. And dropped a pentakill, okay, so no biggie.
The first pentakill, our only pentakill of the split so far, actually. We're halfway through.
Yeah.
Like 3 top lane pentas by this time last year. It was crazy. Like,
it's true. Just the meta does not enable those anymore.
No.
Yeah, we had Jinx and Smolder too. So like Smolder was like the most amount of pentas in like, the one split competitive he had. So that's interesting. No, I think Ninja Kiwi is really solid. So I think INTZ is about where we expected. Their games this weekend, they lost to Cade Stars and Liberty. The Liberty one they shouldn't have dropped. That was an ego.
Yeah, that was.
It was so bad.
Yeah, they got run over by Draven bot side. So yeah, I think INTZ, they made some mistakes this week. I think it was a little bit sloppier than usual from them, but they're still about where I expected. Fluxo is the really weird one to me because I thought they'd be middle of the pack. I did not expect them to go on a 5-game slide from the very top of the table. And the teams they're like losing to, they lost to Pain, FURIA, Loud, Red, and INTZ.
There's no bottom teams there, right? Like, was it Pain?
No.
Yeah, Pain. Yeah, everyone's like a playoff contender.
Red, technically.
Well, everyone's realistically a playoffs contender. Red, in terms of just the team, Red, like I say, wasted half their split fanning about with a new coaching style that they binned. But like, you know, I think they'd probably be 6-5 or 5-6 minimum by now if they hadn't done that. Obviously that's speculation, but yeah, I think all of those names are playoff contenders, and it's really 8 out of the 10 teams I would class as playoffs possible.
Yeah, that's fair. This week in particular too, like watching Fluxo get spanked, it was really painful because they faced Cloud in pain. Like, so literally painful in that case because those teams beating them expected. The Furia game was super weird to me because Furia played the best poke composition I have ever seen come out of Brazil. Like, I was like, okay.
Let me have a look.
Tuts Jace, Tuts the Brazilian Jace, carrying the Brazilian Jace on his back right now, solo. He's like, I think he's played it twice now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Wiz had like the masterpiece Nidalee game.
Yeah,
which was like immaculate.
So clean. And it was like a
JoJo support Skarner.
Dude, it was a complicated draft. With a style that rarely is played, let alone wins games in Brazil, being poke compositions. And then they had the support Skarner that pulled it all together, and JoJo had like a crazy Skarner support game. Like, man, that was a beauty to watch, that Fury game. That was a beautiful game to watch.
Yeah, that was possibly the best game to watch this weekend, at least from a execution point of view. But yeah, for Fluxo, it's like, okay, that I guess we can understand why they lost the entire Super Week, but at the same time, it's like what worries me a little bit about this roster is we know they can play from ahead and they've won games from ahead, but when they're behind and not even close, they don't look like they know how to recover. Like Shinny looks so disconnected from the rest of the team, which is so weird. They look best when Shinny's going in, the whole team follows up. It's like see hero, kill hero. Then this weekend it was like Shinny goes in and nobody's there with him, and I don't know if that's Shinny going in early or if like the rest of the team is not backing him up, but that is such a weird look. It isn't even really a meta shift. I know that Trigo's playing Lucian and it's not looking great, but I don't feel like that's the problem. To me, it just feels like something like when they're behind, the team just somehow isn't pulling Shinny in. If they fix that, I think Fluxo will be fine. If they can't fix it, then I think they go like towards the way of Los at that point.
Yeah.
I think my perspective here on these 3 teams tied up, right? So we got INTZ. You guys mentioned a team that individually not outstanding. As a team, as a composition, just looks so much better. To me, INTZ is the complete opposite of Los Grandes, which have like incredibly gifted individual players, but a terrible composition. INTZ has Yups, has Dioj, and at the end of the day can actually get the cohesion coming from the players' synergy, which is amazing for them. I do expect them to be in this place where they are like very mid of the pack. Some mistakes here and there is to be expected from the level of these players anyway. I think for FURIA, as you guys mentioned, that game is like the highlight of CBLOL, I would say ever, because man, you don't expect us. We never do poke. We only do like front to back composition, goes in, tanky. We have been doing tanky supports for 2 years now. You know, we've been trying to get some things different because of the meta now with the AP jungler, Zyra, brand, and it's bringing out some freshness, which I really, really like. And changes on Corki, for example, also bringing that possibility of, because of the AP jungle, having more AD in the mid lane, the Azrael, Lucian, cool stuff. But at the end of the day, when it goes to team fight and to drafting in general, the composition is also front to back, always front to back. So I really like this coming from FURIA. The problem to me is I don't think they have enough consistency to be bringing out that much. And exactly as you pointed out, RMC, like Fluxo, when they are not ahead, especially as you said, they have been drafting for the Lucian Nami or the Lucian Leona early game. If you are not ahead, they just don't know how to recover, which is terrible if you are trying to get yourself into a potential top 4 for Fluxo. And are they going to get there? Well, again, I have my reservations just because Croc just thinks very highly of them at the moment. And I think I trust his opinion very highly too. So I think that's where I'm standing overall. And then Trajan, you got any specific thoughts about any of these teams? Where are you standing?
I'm still higher on Fury, I think, because they had 2 great wins, especially the poke one. Very a fascinating win, something that tells us a lot about their capabilities. And I give them credit for holding Pain to an even game for 28 minutes. Again,
True.
I'm sad the Euro got lost again, because again, we got some excellent snipes from this ult. Every time we give ZZK this pick, it's highlight content at the very least, because we get the Euro got ults. But they held Pain to an even game for a long time, and Pain, I think, Pain, I think, are the best team in the league right now, because I think VKS have shown their struggles. They're still 9-2, but Pain, I think, look more dominant now. And, you know, at the end of the day, they got outscaled in that game, and they lost to, I would wager, the best team in the league. Curry had, like, just disgustingly good Alistair game again. Like, Pain are just popping off.
So the turret.
I think FURIA had a very good Super Week, all things considered. They're 6-5, but again, this is a team that started slow and is still building momentum, and is now on a fully positive win rate. They were 1-1-ing every week. They've finally now gotten to positive after Super Week. They've gotten some very tough games out of the way, and I think they're looking good for the tough games they've got left. So I am still very, very high on FURIA after that week. And I think, Fluxo and INTZ... I said for INTZ, I think they've just settled into where they're probably going to end up, which is a mid-range team. And for Fluxo, there's clearly room for more. When they look good, they've looked so good, but something is just keeping them from doing this right now. And it's not even that the bot meta has actually changed yet. Like, they shouldn't be putting Trigo on Lucian, but we've stopped playing Jhin early, and like, there's even picks that we saw. Trigo played like Kog'Maw in week 1. You know what I mean? They were trying all sorts of stuff, and I think that's not yet the problem. It's not necessarily that Trigo is dragging them down in these games. It's a different problem that's come early, you know, like them seeming to lose control and lose control of how they want to play as a team, and losing the shinny effect. The shines just come off that a bit, and it's very strange. 5 games is a lot in a row, especially to go from 6 up to 5 down. That we need to see them shake that mental in the next Super Week as well, because if we go to 6 and 8, like, yikes, man. KaBuM's leapfrogging you probably at that point. Red's coming right up behind you to potentially leapfrog you at that point. And then what the first to no playoffs twist is not what I want to see for this team. Not after those first 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
100%. The mental, too. Like, if you lose the next Super Week and you're now on an 8-loss streak.
Yeah.
That means you've lost, like, basically the entire league at that point. There's only one team left you haven't lost to. The mental from that, like, in some regions, if this was, like, Korea, like, okay, that's fine. But like here in Brazil, where we play with our hearts, that could just
if you get heartbroken, that is a genuine pain on the
heartbreaker
rift.
is an execute,
literally.
So the other thing with Fluxo, though, I'm actually curious if they are experimenting, because now that you mentioned that, Trajan, I fully agree with you. Actually, they did drop Jhin early. They didn't need to, right? Like,
even Brunson's playing it now.
Right
now.
Everyone, Tux is playing it in the mid lane.
More people are playing it. Except the guy who's like the Jhin guy, who should be the Jhin guy in this league, you know? It's crazy,
so I just wonder if like they're just prepping drafts for future. Maybe they're just like playing with Lucian to try and get Trigo on board. Maybe, you know, if you're a Fluxo fan, that's what you're hoping is just happening. That's just praying, that they're just trying things out for now. So we'll kind of see how that works. FURIA, I do want to add a fun fact about FURIA as well, because I struggle to place FURIA as a team, and I've said that multiple times. Despite the fact that FURIA are doing well right now, and they have the 3rd highest kill-death ratio of all teams at 1.16. So that's a good stat. They are one of the lowest kills teams. They are 11.4, the 3rd lowest, only ahead of Liberty and Los Grandes. So FURIA is actually playing a very macro-focused game rather than the usual Brazilian kill style, like Soap was talking about, the front to back. They're not doing that. They're playing macro. And I'm actually really excited. I want to see FURIA succeed, because I think if they do, they force the region to level up their macro as well.
I think they know how to push a lead as well.
Hell yeah.
There's teams like, even like VKS at times, and INTZ particular, I think they will be slow and methodical with their advantages, and they will clear out the map, and they will push in a calm, collected way, which can be good and can reduce variance. But I think FURIA, especially, we saw that in the Nidalee Jace game, where like they'll get the lead and they will push it to its extreme every time, and they just ended the game really fast. Like they got like massive kill, as in like way more kills than their opponents, but they just ended the game before they could get to 30. You know what I mean? Like they were just done with that one. So like they do have, when they're on point and when they're playing hot, they are they make great decisions, and like they're individually good and they do good macro, but they also don't waste any time, which I like, because wasting time is how you lose to Loud. That's how you lose to Loud, is you waste time.
100%. Yeah.
I was actually gonna mention that, like talking about the next teams, right? So when you were mentioning like this macro focused play from FURIA and the fact they can not just like execute a win on the back of navigating the map well and making good decisions and wrapping up when you're supposed to wrap up, even if you are not like insanely ahead. I feel like that compares a little bit to VKS, but I think VKS doesn't have as much. Like, so VKS has a very good strategy. They know how to play map. They have great macro. They have strategic decisions in good moments. But I feel like from what you mentioned, if FURIA is on a high, I would see FURIA potentially winning against VKS if they, for example, went for the same style of composition where you can be strategic, but you can also wrap up the game 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You can just do it right there and then. And that's a problem, I would say, for VKS, because when they face against Loud or Pain, that has been so much more proactive recently. And considering these are the top 3 teams, VKS sometimes finds themselves in a, okay, we're still trying to play for the long run. We're still trying to build. We're trying to, it's over. You know, and I feel like these teams can bring some more heat that usually once upon a time it used to be red, not anymore. But the fact that FURIA is in this middle pack and is still potentially going to bring that sort of heat really is encouraging. And I would say would be very beneficial to VKS. It would push Loud and Pain as well, especially Loud, because they always go like 15-minute mark. That's when we're in. And it could even try to push them to be even more aggressive in the early game, which potentially for, you know, just being predictions on predictions for future years, getting on the international as well.
It's dangerous pushing Croc to be active early, because when he decides to do that, he can like do the 3-0 Pain Grand Finals Nocturne MVP thing. If you're like, okay, fine. If you want me to like wake up, I'll wake up. Let's go. Let's go right now. And like Croc, I love that like Croc can be that guy. He's not been that guy yet because they have had a particularly slow season, like in terms of timing, not in terms of wins or anything, but like it has, we know it's in there, but you have to drag out of them, as you kind of implied. So if you got to really drag Loud into the early game, and international is where that tends to sometimes, we see it more from them, but then it ends up being more of a problem somehow. But RMC, is there anything last you want to drop on these mid-game teams before we look at our top 3?
Just to build on what Sofchan was saying too. Yeah, I like the comparison between FURIA and Kate Stars. To me, FURIA feels like an ego-less Kate Stars. Like where Kate Stars have good macro, they keep trying to throw hands when sometimes they shouldn't. FURIA doesn't even want to throw hands with you. Like they'll just be like, okay, you know what? If we think you're better than us in terms of team fighting, we just won't give you a team fight. So yeah, I really like that comparison. And right now, I actually, this might be a hot take. I think FURIA is playing macro better than Kate Stars does right now.
From this Super Week, I would say so too. Yeah,
I didn't say the last 2 weeks. I think the week before.
The last 2, okay.
Great.
Definitely had a better Super Week. I don't know if overall they're playing better macro. I think they are getting a lot of value out of being really skilled early on and getting an advantage and playing a simpler game. I think playing from ahead is obviously easier. And like as much as like a lot of teams struggle to play quickly when ahead, I think if your mindset is right, it's quite simple to do that. You're essentially just kind of running around and forcing and pushing an issue, and you're not like necessarily setting up loads of stuff like a lot of the time. You're forcing very hard, and I think for me, FURIA sometimes feels like they're just keeping the pace really, really high at times, and like teams are like always backstepping and can never kind of stop them with that. I don't know if I'd call their macro better than BKS just yet. I think they did have a better week last week, and it's going that way. The gap is closing, as the Western fans would say. But I don't know if I could give them better than VKS just yet. But let's talk about the top 3, because for VKS they're still 9-2, and we've honestly we need to give them some positives, because we've been ragging on them for the past like 10 minutes. But they're still 9-2, and now I guess I love that you mentioned that Smiley has like highest bot lane DPM as well, because this is a guy who has played his share of Jhin and Ashe games, like more than most, and he's still top in the damage charts. He's still having a banger season from being he's the stand-in, he's kind of doing a job, but like he's not gonna last, and like he's here for now. He is maintaining that core position, I think, on this team, when Gigo has had a much less hype season than he did last time, and Leleko as well having a much less hype split. Smiley is being relied on, I would wager, more as a consistent carry, and I think that's very cool.
Me too, and I think definitely enabled by ProDelta. I think this bot lane has really come into. So from last split when they were first seed, which to be fair, nobody really expected that to be the case, but they went first seed in the regular season. Coming to this one, you're also thinking, okay, how can they improve? And all of that plan going down to the coaching staff and CL and saying this is a 5-year plan, this is how we're going to improve. It feels like there was a double-edged sword with, do we want to try to rush this so we are not actually being pressured to do things, not pressured, but we're not too lax to think about doing things on 5 years? Or on the other hand, do we rush this so we can try to do things faster? So I think they have been doing steady growth, which is not usually the case for CBLOL. We usually have, like very high lows, very low highs,
we have very high lows, very low highs as well. Yeah, we do not
but it's true. When Liberty won against Lost, that's basically a high low.
Good job.
Anyways,
good job, guys. Yeah.
But yay! But yeah, my point being, I feel like VKS has built a good foundation and they are executing it well. There is one problem with what you guys mentioned as well, and I think they're doing amazing. I'm not going to talk down on them, but I feel like there is a problem with how are they going to perform now against Pain and Loud? How could they perform against FURIA being more assertive and having that macro executed in a faster pace? Because I feel like maybe they found themselves in a good, comfortable spot that could be detrimental to them. And it could be just, slowing down that growth curve that we have been seeing from VKS so far. And going back to what you mentioned on Smiley, I think most of it is the meta at the moment, Gigo not having to be like the biggest, most proactive damage dealer in the team, which actually he is very happy about. He's not going all on his back. And I think ProDelta and Smiley now, they're hand in hand. They do so well together. And ProDelta is overall not just a great support for your ADC, but a great support for your team, which really allows for everybody to connect. And I'm optimistic about this team. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, for sure. You don't make it to 9-2 by accident. So definitely, KStars is doing incredibly well, and Smiley has leveled up. I think that's the big thing between the two splits. Is Smiley now is going toe to toe in lane with a lot of the Brazilian AD carries, which always felt like his weakness last split.
Yeah,
the Jhin meta I feel like actually really fits him ironically as well. Maybe not ironically, but it's a champion that still gives him that strategic play that he was known for last split.
Yeah,
but he can also duel much better in lane with that pick. So very much liking what they have. Now, the reason why I'm ragging so much on KStars is because I feel like their macro has gotten a lot sloppier. Like last split when they came in, they were smashing everybody with some of the most, with the cleanest rotations on the map, right? They were making very clean moves. Teams could not keep up. Teams were falling behind in all these sort of trades. Whereas now, the early game for KStars is actually kind of vexing to me. I think their mid game is still really good. Like they are making really smart choices on the map when they're trading objectives. So they're going down gold in a lot of their games, and then they're coming back because they're making better trades. In the first place, they should not be down gold. That's what's frustrating me. Their first Drake fights have been horrendous for the most part, and it shouldn't be. Right? When you got a team like Desamis, Leleko is not terrible either. Granted, he's not quite got the same shine as last split, but he's solid. Smiley and ProDelta having the split of their lives. They should be dominating Drake fights. Instead, they keep picking really awkward Drake fights and getting wiped at them. So they'll be down like 3 kills, 3 deaths for absolutely no reason and have to play from behind. The fact they can come back is amazing. The fact that we're there is not. So that's why I mean, like, I feel like FURIA is egoless KStars because FURIA don't even put themselves in that position.
Do you think this is an exposure of KStars getting worse, or do you think it is the rest of the league punishing KStars for things they would get away with before?
No, Cade wasn't doing this before. Like their setups to Drake last split were much, much better, right? Like they get the gank at the bot side, they get a kill. Like Desamis enables a kill, or ProDelta and Smiley set up a kill. Desamis gets the kill, they move. And or mid lane, they push out the mid laner, they rotate for drag. It was much, much cleaner. And or they just don't go for first Drake. Right, we saw that a lot last split where they'd go like, okay, Gigo's strong, we play for Gigo, we play for Void Grubs, and we trade for Drake, right? So we never put ourselves in that sort of 4v4, 3v3 situation around Drake, which they are opting into this split.
Yeah, I did notice that when you were talking about the VKS players, you missed one of them out. You're like, Leko, he's trying to come off, he's having a great split. Bot lane split in their lives. The Sam is so good. And then we just moved on. And we kind of left Gigo out in the cold a little bit there, I feel. And, you know,
to be fair, I was talking about Drake fight, so I wasn't involved in the top laners.
Not his bag necessarily. But
yeah. Gigo's still doing well.
But he's not 1v2ing every game like he was last time, where you could leave him to absorb pressure, waste the other jungler's time, and come out ahead in goals in like kills and CS, you know? And that heavy map skewing to just be like, you didn't have to bother about that and you would still win. Not having that does put pressure on the rest of the map to perform better. And they're actually performing worse on the rest of the map now. So...
Well, no, I'd argue they're doing better, generally speaking. Their laning certainly better. It's
the
just
laning is better, yes.
Specifically, the first Drake fight tilts me when I watch K-Stars. Because, like, everything's great. Again, they're winning their lanes half the time walking to that fight. It's just how they approach that fight is mind-boggling to me. Repeatedly, where you don't set up vision. You're walking in, instead of as a team, you're walking in pairs or solo. And somebody's like just getting initiated on, and then you play out the rest of the fight 3v4 half the time, and still do decently well in the fight. It's like, guys, if we just set up to this, we wipe them. Why are we doing this? That said, Gigo, Trajan, I think is the interesting point to go back to your question about, is it the rest of the league that has caught up? I do feel like the top lane pool actually has improved a lot, and the champion pool means that Gigo... I feel like a lot of his advantages last time, the Renekton and the Ornn, are nullified by the current champion pool. Like TF being a huge thing that's kind of punishing Gigo's champ pool a little bit. Gigo's still doing well, don't get me wrong. I still think he's absolutely great. But yeah, that's the one lane where I feel like has kind of been encroached upon by the rest of the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Especially the meta.
Yeah, for sure. It's very different across there. For Loud... Lost 2 games, 1 and 2 super week. Not ideal for the Loud heads. And they got kind of summarily stomped by Red, importantly, down in 8th, and by Pain, which is again not surprising because it's regular season Pain Loud, and Pain look amazing. So the Pain game, I'm kind of like, whatever. Cool. Nice. Good job, Red. Let's see it in the playoffs. Psych, you won't. We'll never see it in playoffs. Good one. But the Red game was like, okay, this is Red, and this is Red regressing back to doing whatever Red used to do before, which was the times that made me think, oh, maybe Red can beat Loud. Smile, you know? And this was another one of those, and I had to watch that and go, don't get tricked, Trajan. Don't. You've seen this before. Don't look at this game and go, ooh, Red beating Loud in the regular season. Wow, maybe nothing's gonna happen. Okay, nothing's gonna happen.
I cast that game, and even during that game, part of me kept thinking, oh, we're at 15 minutes. Surely Loud's gonna come on. Okay, they're a bit later than usual. 20 minutes. 20
checking
minutes,
the watch like Loud. You know, it's 25 minutes now.
25 minutes. Like they were like down. 25 minutes. They're like, okay, they're down quite a bit right now. It's going to be an experiment fight, right? That's what's happening. And then literally when Red won that last fight, part of me was still like, is this it? Can they end, or does Loud still somehow bounce back?
Yeah.
Like, it was such a weird experience, but Red played that pretty clean, actually. So props to them.
Yeah. Are you worried about Loud, Soph? Or are we just... We're just back to
no. Really.
Again, it's just been the order we did this on, right? Yeah, exactly. Because it's like with Fluxo, right? We expected them to be kind of there, but we didn't think they'd go first to fourth. They're still fourth, and with Loud, we didn't expect them to be joint first in the down here. Normally, they just sit about where they are right now the whole time. And they're still here. So
I feel like they're adjusting as well to exactly as you said, the fact that we had Fluxo and ATZ starting out such high up. And good expectations for them in the beginning of this round robin that I feel like Loud was trying to understand and acclimatize themselves to what was actually going to be the top 6. So how I feel like Loud plays regular season, them is all about strategy in understanding how the teams are going to be playing because they know they're going to be on playoffs. There's just never not going to be in the equation. So how I feel like they play is they study the teams, they try to understand, they lose, it's part of the work, it's part of the job. And with this switch up, with Fluxo, with INTZ Pain coming stronger, which we know Loud usually loses to Pain in regular season, but Pain is winning this much stronger than they did in the first split. VKS also maintaining a good steady growth curve that I feel like Loud now has pushed themselves to try to perform much closer to playoffs Loud in regular season than they have been forced before. And it's not because all of the teams are doing so much better, because I agree with you, RMC. Overall, some of these plays, some of these macros and positionings with the AP junglers, people are just playing worse. I agree. Yeah. But some of these points Loud identifies because they have good coaching staff and they have extremely experienced in-season players that they decide, okay, so these things we need to work on, these things we need to understand how to navigate, because it could be an issue in playoffs. Because that's what I feel like regular season is allowed, is just understanding how to navigate playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I do think they're experimenting a little bit. I didn't like the Gragas pick for Robo in the game against Pain. It felt very
did it twice
out of place and kind of random.
Did it against Red as well. Wasn't great either time.
No, Red was the terrible one where he picked Gnar and got absolutely.
It was Gnar, yeah.
He was like
wow,
3 and 10.
It was Gnar and Camille.
3 and 9, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
he got stomped by FNB.
Classic Gnar nightmare. Look at the Camille pick. Yeah. It's like the Aurelia of old, you know, like.
Yeah, actually, genuinely, I mean that is not the Gnar Camille is not really a counter matchup. Like the moment jungles get involved, Nar's going to get his face kicked in. So like in isolation, I kind of see it. To me, I'm looking at this as, this is typical, like so saying this is typical out during regular season. We're experimenting a little bit, trying to make sure we have counters ready to go for playoffs. Yeah. And now we know Nar in Robo's hands does not counter Camille in the hands of FNB, and by extension, you know, the top echelons of CBL's top laners. So, I think it was experimental from them. They're just going to come in third, fourth, I suspect, as they always do.
It's like, it's experimental in that they're playing some of the champs that they don't play as much, but they're like, they don't change the style of play, they don't change their comps, like win conditions really. There's, you know, you'll never see a poke comp coming out of Loud, you know what I mean? Like, it's ultimately...
We did, and it didn't work.
Never again.
Which one was it?
2 splits ago, I think, or
exactly. Yeah, 2 splits ago, and we never saw it again because it was very bad. So we can transition this into Pain up at the top here, because that Loud Pain game. RMC's enjoying himself. He's having a good time.
He melt.
Because that
Pain.
That Pain Loud game was maybe the first game where Root actually got like beaten down, and he's been so good this split. He's been exceptional this split. But that game, Titan and Curry took the OG 2v2 stompers, Rakan and Xayah, and they absolutely bodied Root and Redbird on another classic 2v2, Kalista Renata. Like, they both picked for 2v2 dominant things, and Root just got kind of cooked in this game, I'll be honest. Like, so that was interesting to me that Root finally had a bad game, because he's been very, 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 very good this split. But yeah, just Pain, they're just on another level, man. Even against Loud, they're just didn't look hard. Did not look hard for them, bro. Like, they walked on them.
Yeah, I'll let Soph get her thoughts out, because once I talk, I'm on a soapbox. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be brief then. Yeah, I agree. I think there's just such good coming out from Pain Gaming at the moment. I think I've noticed this since the first day of this split. We had an Italy game for Carioca. And to me, that was the moment I said, they are a new team. They are coming out with a new strategy, a new look, and I just had higher expectations. They are delivering, and there's, as you guys say, there's just something different about Pain winning Loud on regular season and this, because they won so well executing most of these plays. Like, they had great team fight composition, but they also had a good option there on the Ezreal in the mid lane for Jinkido. I didn't exactly watch that game, if I'm mistaken, but it's just the adaptability that's coming from Pain, in the fact that they don't just adapt on the draft, they deliver the actual gameplay that is supposed to be played by that specific draft, which is making me so excited about the team. And yeah, like when you beat on Root, that has been doing so well in the bot lane with, as you guys say, the 2v2 for Zyrakan versus the Kalista Renata, it just means great heights for Pain Gaming.
They're really delivering the Pain hopium. Really make sure, like, guys, don't get bored now. You thought,
they're delivering
I know it's 5 years in a row, but we're going to keep doing this again, and we'll make sure you get excited again for Pain Loud Grand Finals, because it's coming.
Yeah.
I know, they do this every split, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
they find a new level to get you excited again. You're like, no, I won't trust
but they
them
have
next
been
time. I
growing.
won't believe them next time, because I don't care if they
It
look
was
good.
a 5-game though.
But they look
last
even better.
time.
And they look even better.
Yeah,
And it was 5 games.
exactly. There's already hope. Right, like it was like, oh, okay, you know what? Trigo damage didn't work out. We're bringing B-Boy. We're bringing him back, you know. And then that didn't work out. We're taking Titan. You know, like we're gonna do this. And
almost worked out, but not quite. But,
but you know, they gave us our first 5. Yeah, they've been swept so many times before that, right? And then now coming into this split, it's in a way so painful for me because it gives me so much hope watching the way they play. They're on a 7-game win streak right now. The only team I really want to see them play against right now is will be the Saturday game on Super Week against Skate Stars because they lost against Skate Stars back in week 2. And that's only one of their only 2 losses. The other was Fluxo, I believe, who was on a slide. So, but my goodness, it's also the way Pain is playing right now. Their drafts are not bad. Okay, that sounds really weird for me to put
they're
like that.
Good.
But like,
I'd even go as far as to say they're good. Yeah.
True, they are.
As far as to say.
Okay, the reason why I hesitated against to say they're good against Loud, they drafted a Jarvan into a team which literally all had escapes out the Cataclysm, and I was like, very, very questionable. But they executed incredibly well. So the drafts are not bad. Usually, the first sign that Pain's going to lose a game is when they draft poorly. Like they did in the grand finals against Loud on game 5, where they drafted a mono damage threat comp with a Kalista being the mono threat. Like the moment that happened, I was just wanting to walk out that door. Like the moment I saw that happen.
We all did.
Yeah. So if you're on that cast with me, so you know that. Like, I was losing my mind when I saw that job. So that's like the first thing Pain does wrong. Then the players are coming together at the perfect time. Right, karaoke, like you're talking about. So AP junglers, he's a new man, and he still has Maokai Sejuani in his pocket.
Yes,
like, bro, you can't ban this guy out. He can do whatever he wants right now. Wiser, holy crap, is getting me so excited. Like last split, Wiser honestly was to the point where I'm like, okay, guys, if we want a championship, do we realistically have to look at replacing Wiser? That was my attitude after last split. This split, Wiser's been absolutely crushing it on all sorts of matchups and just dominating incredibly well. Dinkiddo's Ezreal game so far, I know you didn't see it, but Dinkiddo topped the damage charts and it wasn't even close that game. And that was the game where Titan Curry had that Zaya Rakan that Trajan was talking about, beat Root, and Dinkiddo stole the show. Right, and of course Titan Curry is Titan Curry. They've been absolutely crushing it. Curry is, oh my goodness, right now. Pain is just firing on all cylinders. They are perfect. They have the assignment. They understand the assignment. They are exceeding all expectations on the assignment right now. My only fear is, can they maintain this level? Right?
Yeah, we've seen
there's still so many
7-game win streaks before turn into 6th place.
Liberty
finishes.
did that.
KaBuM did it. Fluxo did it. Everyone's done it. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of so we'll see if they can keep it going. There's no signs of slowing for now, at least, and there's no one's really even slacking. You know, no one's getting carried even right now. Everyone's going for it. So that looks great for Pain. And going into this second part of the round robin, they've already taken down Loud. We need to see what the VKS matchup looks like, and then the rest of these teams just below them. But no one seems like they'd be able to compare in like an objective way. It would have to be like a Pain forgot how to draft, forgot how to play.
You could chuck Pain in the LCS right now, and I think that'd be like a top 2 team.
Back to that old question from a couple of weeks ago. Now Pain makes top 4 easy peasy in this kind of form.
After this Super Week, honestly, right now in the current form, I'd take them over Team Liquid.
Yeah, they're cooking for sure. Right, let's answer some questions from the community before we wrap it up here. We did have one as well. I think it was from Luna Day as well about MVPs and rankings, and we're going to deal with that in our next episode. So don't worry, Luna Day, we haven't forgotten. We will get to it. But another question from Luna Day: make a storyline you would like to see come true for the second half of the split. Now I already have one in the tank, ready to go. Which is KaBuM starts in. They don't make they start in like the first round, which is the third to sixth thing. They win the first round, close game against like, I don't know, INTZ, and they get into the next one up against Pain. 3-1 loss to Pain. They take a game, because Painful gets out of
Okay,
Duck or something, but they lose. And they go down to losers bracket, and then we end up with House again, losers, time to step up, time to defend against all the haters who say you can't win in playoffs. They go 5 games versus whoever's there, House carries game 5, and they then do like an INTZ style losers run. They get to 3rd or 4th by taking out like, I don't know, Furia maybe later on. You probably don't make it to 3rd because you've got to beat one of Pain, VKS, or Loud realistically to do that, and I don't think we're getting that far. But you do like an INTZ style run, but specifically centered around House in playoffs, because he's been improving in playoffs, and he can finally shrug off the narrative once and for all that he's a playoffs choker. That's my storyline that I want.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you have one ready?
No, I was actually thinking of something, but I think it might be close to what you get, so I'll let you go in, and if it is the same thing, I'll just switch up.
Okay, wait. How realistic does the storyline have to be?
Well, you just says you would like to see it, so in theory,
true. Like I'd like to see the brTT redemption story, but that ain't gonna happen. So
yeah.
It's not.
Okay, you know what? Here's one which I'd like to see. Furia will be my protagonist for the storyline.
Yeah.
I would like to see them just absolutely dominate the regular season, crush everybody out, just keep skilling, keep playing perfect macro. Their last 2 matches of the regular season will be Loud and Pain, I believe, in that order, in the last week. I want to see them super, super close, and I want to see Furia win. And then I want to see them go into playoffs, and because of their crushing streak, everybody starts propping up their macro. VKS stops playing ego drafts. Loud comes online with their usual style. Pain polishes off their macro as well. And we get an insane run. And I want to see Furia get all the way up to semifinals, where they face off against Pain there. Let's have it on the lower bracket, because that's probably more realistic. Loud will probably beat Pain in the winners finals. They'll play in the lower bracket against Pain. And Pain wins it, but it's like a close one, 3-2. And then Pain goes in and beats Loud 3-2. Pain, with this polished macro, with the renewed confidence, goes to international stage, and then we'll stop the storyline there.
So it sounds like what you're saying is Furia fixes the CBLOL. Is your storyline?
Yes, that is the storyline I want to see.
Furia solves the region, and then graciously bows out in the 3rd to open the way for Pain to carry the banner into Worlds. I love that. Yep. Good stuff. And then we make it to groups, and then we win Worlds. So.
Let's go! Like, we just win Worlds.
The question said domestic only, so I cut it off right before we got there.
We'll cut that. All right, so what's up?
Okay, so I think that's an interesting storyline. Actually, I was thinking my storyline would be, so already with a spoiler alert, I'm gonna build it improvising, but the spoiler is I was gonna say that Pain does beat Loud this time around. So that's the part I thought you were gonna say. So I'm gonna try to build something different. Yes, I was thinking of mentioning Footy as well. So I think that storyline makes quite a lot of sense to me. I think they can push the league to actually do something new and keep up with, not having to wait for Loud to be on 15 minutes and take the game home. So let me try to whip something different. Maybe on the back of Fluxo over here. Let me think about it. Yeah. Okay. So let's think.
They could do with a story. Honestly, their current story isn't very good. I don't like it. Can we get a new one, please?
Okay. So the scenario is they look at themselves first super week of Split 2, 5 losses in a row. This is not where they want to be. They realize that they need to be working on better engages with Shinny. So we know that Shinny does those engages and those ganks really well. So they're trying to get even more of that backup and synergy around the team and around him in particular. I think there is a place where Chiari shines even more in the top lane, potentially bringing, I don't know, the same amount of success that he got on the Gwen with other champions. Maybe a Camille would fit a style. Very interesting layer, like good duelist and potential for split pushes as well. So if you build something around big scissors, yes, or the scissors or the leg scissors, both things, and you bring out Fluxo with this new like updated storyline where they notice this is the last time that we're actually going to lose this split, and it brings even more of that fuel and motivation and determination, and it gets themselves into, let's see, they are on 4th place now, so I don't think there's going to be much different, but they don't lose any more in the standing, so they're going to keep themselves on 4th. I don't think they're going to win against the top 3 at the moment, and it would need much more time for them to overcome that, but they're going to maintain that position, not even leaving a space for FURIA to overcome them in the standings, but there's going to be a banger matchup of Fluxo FURIA in that playoff, potentially lower bracket, quarterfinals, something like that. And that all allows for the other teams, as you guys say, to elevate the gameplay and get Pain Gaming to win for Loud and
it's all in service of Pain being loud. Really, that's
exactly
what we're actually going for here. This is in service of Pain being loud.
I have slowly subverted CBLOL English to Pain.
If we can all just put aside our differences and get behind Pain.
Last split, I've always been a Pain supporter, but ever since, especially because I joined you guys in the studio trying to be as impartial as possible. So I didn't let it shine, but since we're here, you know, up close and personal podcast, we can talk about it, and I do want them to win. It's just annoying that Loud can maintain the same level of play and still win. They're not exactly improving that much, and they still take 4 championship titles. And I think that this, because of the, as I mentioned earlier, the specific changes with players, with meta, with styles that some of these teams are bringing, and that highlight for the Fluxo FURIA coming to playoffs, that could mean something here for that change in strategy, then we can actually see Pain Gaming not only have their redemption story, but bringing out a win like they did last week against Lab, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Question from Dark Knight. Will Fluxo still make playoffs? Kind of connected to this. I assume we're generally probably thinking about yes. And I think from our earlier discussion, we thought that they'd end up somewhere around this point. Do we think they're going to still make it, though? With KaBuM, Red, INTZ all hungry behind them? There's only two slots realistically for teams that don't make it, which is 7th and 8th, because Levizin and Loss have 9th and 10th on lock right now. So do we think they make top 6 out of 8, basically?
Ooh. I'm actually not that confident about that.
Yeah, I was a lot more confident last week, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Before KaBuM and Red kind of woke up.
Yeah.
Because I think KaBuM's going to make top 6, and that means somebody drops out. Red might or might not make it. Yeah, I think that the big question for me, Kit, I think the first team to fall out of the top 6 might be INTZ. The second team would be Fluxo, in my head. So I know it's kind of weird that like KaBuM and Red have been out for so long, and I'm still thinking they're going to make it. So the question to me is just, does Fluxo turn around this ship? At the rate they're going right now, they will not make playoffs. Yeah, on their 5-loss streak. So I am not confident. I think on the balance of probability, I'm going to say Fluxo don't make it. But it's a close run thing. It's like 45-55, you know, that whether they make it or not.
Because I think Fluxo actually have a good head-to-head against Red, like stylistically. I think Fluxo can decently deal with Red because they have a very competent leading jungler, and they have lanes who I think will not get steamrolled by Red, as long as they give Trigo something reasonable in bot lane and don't try to Lucian Nami into Bronze and Frosty. Like, don't stop, okay? But I think Fluxo have all the tools they need to deal well against Red, and despite those Red games, they're still 2 wins back, and I just feel like we're just still going to see the catastrophic Red disasters like games, and we're gonna still have those. I kind of feel like the 3 down there, INTZ, KaBuM, and Red, are gonna be 2 of those 3 are gonna be the ones that don't make it still. That's like my gut feeling. I don't think that Fluxo are going to lose the plot entirely. They're not. They're comfortably out of a top 3 discussion now, even though they're only 1 win back. I don't see them cracking that, but I think they'll hold on to playoffs. I think they'll land 5th or 6th, and I think FURIA is going to end up 4th.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
So
I think it supports my idea of getting them into my fictional storyline is because I have I have a good trust in them. I feel I do believe in it. I don't think it's gonna be
you had them top 4, right? So
yeah, in the fictional story,
yeah.
It's possible they're gonna be 4 or 6 or 5th. I don't think they're gonna be out of playoffs. I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you guys say, I feel like they have been able to adapt well so far to understand, we lost 5 times in a row. Let's change it. Let's not do the Lucian army against Red Cannons, for example. Let's just do what we have been used to. I think Trigger Rock's a very good Kaiser sometimes as well. That can be used.
I like a Zaya.
I think Jinx. Yeah, like the hyperscalers do well on the Trigger, right? Yeah, exactly. So I don't think they are doomed or cursed enough to not notice that these are the changes they need to make, right? Because we just thought about them like
they've got Turtle, right?
At the top of our
he's
head.
on Liberty. Yeah, they've got who do they have on Fluxo? Who's there?
The guy on
meta, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah. So I think on meta has eyes. I don't think they're going to
yes, exactly.
I don't think they're going to keep making the same fundamental mistakes. Obviously the play needs to pick up and they need to get their minds right again, but I think the outside influences are going to get tidied up, and I don't think that'll drag them down too much more. I think that the next question again from Luna Day is kind of related to this, which is which top 6 team, I like the way they phrased it, which top 6 team do you think is most likely to come back off this week-long break and say, we need more of this, and then skip playoffs? So which top 6 team is not going to make it? I think we've kind of come to an INTZ consensus already in that previous discussion. Is there any other top 6 team you actually think isn't making? Because I think FURIA is fine. At least 2 of us think Fluxo's fine. And then RMC, you thought Fluxo might drop out maybe into 7th or just not quite make it if Red and KaBuM pick up. But I think INTZ is the consensus vote here.
Yeah.
So we think, which would be a shame again, because they have picked up and they deserve credit for that, and hopefully they can still get the credit they deserve for turning around. And it is a very competitive mid pack, but I just don't think it's a bit too competitive for them, sadly.
Agreed.
Dark Knight again saying, I was thinking the Super Week would give us better games. This is a good RMC question. But it gave us more chaotic and bad games. What were your expectations for the games, and did it disappoint? I don't know why you thought the Super Week would give us better games, Dark Knight. I'll be honest. I don't know why you thought that would be better. I didn't. I'll be honest. So it didn't disappoint me. It was CP-LOL heavy. We've had our clean weeks, our quiet weeks, and our crazy ones, and this was a crazy one. So at this point, I'm beyond being surprised or disappointed at all.
That's
I was just like, it was a crazy one, And I think for every team that looked worse than usual, there was a team for me that looked better than usual. So Pain still looked hot, FURIA looked hot, KaBuM looked better, Red arguably looked better, and then Fluxo, INTZ, Loud, they're all kind of sussy. The bottom 2, I don't care. I really don't care anymore. So, in terms of looking good or bad,
they're just gone.
But Liberty won 2 games, Trish.
So, and then BKS.
That's hopium right there.
I think that
they did better than Loud in the Super Week.
They literally did, which is funny, objectively.
Really objectively.
So yeah, RMC, you already said you thought that we're struggling, we're looking a little bit worse. I imagine you might. Did it disappoint you? I guess is the key, or was it just we just had a CP-LOL week and we all got worse for 3 days, or
I think I'm kind of with you, Traden, about the expectations, because already in week 4, to me, the chaos started.
Yeah,
the fact that Los beat Red.
Yeah,
it was what on earth? Fluxo was starting their losing run. Because Red literally lost to Los and then beat Fluxo the day after in week 4, right? So I was already looking at week 4, kind of going okay, anything could happen now. And at that point, the chaos was starting. So when week 5 hit, yes, there were some things that did exceed my expectations, but at the same time, I think largely, by and large, it was within the range of my expectations. I wasn't surprised when Liberty beat Los. I wasn't surprised when Pain beat Loud. Things like that were just kind of okay, I did expect this. That said, I think a lot of the chaotic games happen because I suspect some teams are testing stuff. Loud feels like they're testing stuff. Fluxo's Lucian bot lanes, I'm praying are them testing stuff. I think the only really big sort of shocker to me was KaBuM actually performing really, really well. I think they stepped up larger than I expected. Like Red being chaotic was expected the moment they dropped Nelson and went back to Coelho, so I wasn't too shocked. Liberty beating INTZ was a bit of a shocker, but the Draven being picked up made it more of a like happy moment than anything else. I think INTZ performed as expected, so largely within my expectations. Did it disappoint? Not more than usual, unfortunately. I think I've said this last split already that I thought CBLOL's last split was not as good as their previous splits had been in terms of improvement. And this split, the chaos has already started back up again. I think teams have been sloppier these last 2 weeks. So disappointed that we didn't see better. But at the same time, like Trajan said, there were some teams which really stepped up. Furia and Pain made the week kind of balance out to me. Actually, on the balance thing, I'd say that the Super Week actually did not disappoint me. It was still above my expectations because KaBuM, Pain, and Furia performed above expectations. So I was pretty happy with Pain and Furia, especially. I'm seeing hope from KaBuM, and the teams that kind of disappointed were with an expectation.
How about you, Soph? How did you find it?
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like there's this position where you have different expectations for each team anyway. So the fact that some of these teams just went above board a little bit, not exactly like popping off, but still showing that they can improve from what we saw in the first round robin, into the expectations for, maybe Hopium, the brTT was actually going to be goated and he's just washed. So it's a mix up that unfortunately we always expect from CBLOL anyway. And I agree with RMC. I think for the teams that did outperform, even if it was just for a little bit or if it was medium outperforming, I think it was worth it to think that it was a good week. Again, pinpointing that Pain versus Loud, as you mentioned, the win was even better than you would expect from Pain versus Loud in the regular season for Pain, which I think is very encouraging. The other teams having a little bit of a struggle. It feels chaotic overall, especially because it is a super week, so you have one more day of actual matches to be thinking about, and it feels like a roller coaster. But at the end of the day, I think it was well within my expectations. I don't think I was like highly disappointed with anyone.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
follow-up question to that. Not next week, but the week after, Super Week. Do we expect it to be as chaotic, more chaotic, or less chaotic? And which team are you expecting to give the biggest surprise?
I'm taking a quick squiz at the matchups right now. I think...
Yeah,
with a Super Week, it's
writing
not even
myself
like
here on the chair as well.
There's enough time for. There's always going to be some like fun matchups here because there's three days worth of games. So like, Pain VKS, it's going to be pretty good. KaBuM Fluxo, I think, could be good. Furia VKS, we've talked a lot specifically about Furia and VKS in contrast with each other as a very important one. There are a fair amount of washout matchups, I think, as well. Like, I think Liberty is going to get beaten on for 3 games. I think Lost is probably going to get beaten on for 3 games. So, because like Loud and Pain, I think is sewn up, but Fluxo, is I'd love to not be worried, but I can't say I'm not a little worried. That's the game, at least. If you're 6-6 by that point, that's your mental reset game. That's your like it's possible to lose. Even record, we're still in playoffs. Get the easy win over the line. Now let's move on. So I don't think it will be more chaotic. No, because I think there's room for a lot of the narratives we have to keep continuing. But even if Furia loses to VKS, I don't think that necessarily spikes the wheel on the Furia narrative by itself. Especially if the game is not like horrendous from them. So I think we'll see a lot of our winning teams winning and our losing teams losing, and then between those close matchups, I wouldn't take those individually to be like, aha, this has given us definitive evidence of X, Y, and Z at this point. So I think...
Okay, so generally less chaotic.
Yes, less chaotic for sure. Okay. I think it's going to be interesting in the same way, but not as much of a dynamic shift as we did see in some cases.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've got very strong opinions about this, actually. So I'm feeling like this next week is going to be much less chaotic just by the fact that we have so much at stake in regards to the middle of the standings. You got KaBuM Fluxo, you got KaBuM Furia. even for the closer into Fluxo VKS, FURIA VKS as well. These really mean so much for KaBuM, for Fluxo, to try to maintain themselves in the top 6 and trying to get into this, last few weeks of regular season, feeling like, as you guys say, like we're not on 6-6, we're actually positive. That really means so much more encouragement and actual hope for these teams, that I feel like they're going to be even more focused and even more decisive on what they decide to do. I think the drafts could be innovative, but they are going to stick more to, maybe not from FURIA. I think FURIA could be still innovating because they did super well with the poke composition. But overall, I think the drafts are going to be very, this is what we do, this is what we know how to do, and this is how we're going to execute it into a win. And of course, the KaBuM FURIA matchup, the KaBuM Fluxo matchup, it could go either way, really. I think it's going to be very close. It depends on which footing KaBuM is. Have they really gotten to that high vibe check with Scary? And how is Fluxo feeling after the 5 losses? And FURIA, are you bringing more stuff that I feel like it's going to be less chaotic because of the high stakes I put on these matches in particular?
Yeah, I think I'm 100% in agreement with you. So, like, start to finish, less chaotic, higher stakes, I think means teams will level up. So I think in terms of gameplay level, I am expecting them to also level up gameplay-wise. Because coming into the Super Week 5, like, I think the general consensus was, top 6 is locked, right? Like, KaBuM and Red were just crapping the bed left and right. Los and Liberty already kind of felt completely out of it. Whereas this week, I do think with the soup thickening, like, teams will buck back up. I don't think we're seeing as much experimental stuff. I suspect we'll be on 14-13 if pattern holds the same. Yeah, because we usually get two weeks on each patch, right? So I'm assuming 14-13. That patch balances out a lot of the OPs as well, kind of nurse them a little bit. So things like the Skarner, Brand, Karthus, all getting a little bit of nerf. I think Talia's getting hit a little bit, even though she's not like crazy meta right now. So because of that, I think it will also help reduce the variance and the chaos a little bit. I don't know if we're going to see as much experimenting. I would like to, but by and large, yeah, I suspect Super Week 6 will not be as crazy as Super Week 5. And if it is, hey, more fun for us.
Not complaining either way. Okay, last question for Luna Day. Talking about next year's format with 8 teams, would you be more excited for single round robin best of 3s in a shorter split, or continue being the only region to use best of 1s, keeping in mind that Fearless is being brought in for international, for the first international event is now Fearless for everybody.
I like how you cleaned up the question, Trajan.
It's amazing. That was perfect, Trajan.
If you want to see originally what Lunar Day asked, the unclean version,
apologies.
Join the Discord
for censoring you a little bit. But
how wonderful.
So I think I would prefer single best of 3s, I think, because I think Fearless is more interesting, and I like when the CBLOL is fun to watch, and I think best of 3 is more fun to watch, so I'm cool with that. And on average, you get minimum the same number of games. On average, more.
Yes.
Everyone plays at least 2 games every time. You're still playing twice, like for every other team, and many of them will play 3 times. So you get more games. Stage games is always good, and it forces them again to be more interesting with their drafting and stuff, which I think they are already getting better at, for what it's worth. And this will just help continue building on that progress.
Yeah.
I
really resonate with what you said there.
Does anyone like best of 1s on Earth?
No, best of 1s suck. No, they're terrible. I think what makes it more exciting for me, as you say, there's the fact that most of the teams are going to be playing the same amount of games, but the mental preparation that you need for the best of 3s and thinking about how are you going to decide is your strategy for game 1, game 2, how do you bounce back on a game 3, how do you bounce back in a best of 3 when you are behind in a specific game, how does that affect the mental, the preparation, the strategy, everything involved in it. It just gets us as a region who have been very used and accustomed to just losing to Loud at the end of the day and just not having to really up our stakes that much. I just feel like it brings a new feeling, a new brand, a new face to how players and coaching staff is going to be approaching it, which really excites me.
This really plays into what I was saying a couple of weeks ago about the fact that CBLOL teams in general are really bad in playoffs. Most of them get notably worse at the game in a best of because they, and part of that I imagine is because they don't get much practice at it. And the more practice you get at playing and engaging with the game in a best of series format, the less likely it is that Loud wins their 8th title in a row or whatever they have at that point. So I think it's better for the growth of the region for that reason, because just it's a skill that you need. Now, especially now, all of the internationals, we're not doing round robin stuff groups anymore. They're going straight into brackets and best of series. So it's just better for everybody if we're more practiced at that.
100%. I have never liked best of ones. I've always hated it. I hate the fact that NA actually tried best of threes and switched back to best of ones. So yeah, no, 100%. I will always pick a best of 3. Ideally, best of 5 would be nice, though that'd be too long for most people, for the casual viewer. So yeah, I would say best of 3s, and especially if since as Trainer pointed out, international events are now best of 3s, and if we're doing Fearless, you have to do best of 3s. Like being the only region to not touch Fearless and then have to switch to it,
goofy.
Literally, the drafting for Fearless is completely different. So the more games you can play, or the more games within the series, even a best of 3, best of 5, and full Fearless is actually vastly different in how you approach it. So I'm 100% down for best of 3, even if it's single round robin.
Yeah, like I think the kind of the only argument that I've ever heard that has any kind of coherence, I think, in favor of best of ones is that the narrative argument of seeing a team play against a particular opponent, a rival, whatever, once, and then you get a round robin, you see them play again, you see the evolution of that matchup over the course of a split, which can be interesting and stimulating. However, that doesn't matter in CBLOL. It only matters if you can beat Loud in playoffs. So I don't care watching Pain play against beat Loud over and over again in regular season, and I don't think the Pain fans do either, because they know it doesn't matter. So even specifically in the CBLOL,
we do it regularly.
That argument just doesn't hold up in this region. Just the best of ones matter even less than normally, because it's all about playoffs at the end of the day for us.
And we coin flip so hard in CBLOL too. There's so many games where it's like literally in draft, I'm like, oh, we screwed the draft. Like the game is unplayable now, right? Yeah, like in a best of 3, you fix that, and if you do it twice in a row, then you deserve to lose.
Yeah, you can fix it straight away, not in like 4 weeks time. So
because in 4 weeks time, the meta's changed again. That's 2 patches later, and like literally, it's not even comparable. You know, so. Yeah, 100%. Like I agree with Trajan. Like the narrative argument to me is already somewhat tenuous, though. Yeah, there is some credence to it.
You can derive value from it, but
yes,
less value than you'd get from all the pros from best of 3. So,
I think when there's less potential for like a single pick screwing you, then double round robin might matter more. Like if the game is more consistent and stable in the first place. But League inherently isn't, which is a good thing, because it gets very boring very fast. Like if it's football, then it's fine. You know, like there's very little variance.
You can do group stage
best 3 matters
in football. You can keep it. Football can keep group stages. Okay,
that's good.
The last extra thing I just want to touch on here, as just the best of discussion before we wrap up, I personally am a best of 2s truther. I don't know about you guys. I think the only argument that anyone actually comes back with when it comes to best of 2s is, but I didn't get to see who won. I don't like draws because draws don't make me feel happy. And I'm like, if it means everyone says before, we have no time for best of 3s, so it has to be best of 1s. And you could have best of 2s instead. You take the best of 2s every time. You get double the games. You still get series where you can get that kind of that game 1 to game 2 draft adaptation. And it doesn't matter who ties a regular season game, bro. So, no one cares. It's all about playoffs.
You're not saying you like a best of 2. You're saying that you take a best of 2 over a best of 1.
I do like a best of 2 because then you can do 2 rounds. With best of 2s, with best of 2s, you can potentially squeeze 2 rounds of best of 2s into a season, whereas you only ever going to get 1 of best of 3s.
I will say this. I don't know if it's on more EU competitions, but I know the Prime League, which I cast for SK, they do best of 2s. I don't know if you are EU contaminated, Trajan, but this is not the way to go. Trajan, best of 2s. Best of 2s. You feel like there are no actual stakes. You're gonna play a set amount of games.
Never stakes
you don't have
in a regular
to really
season game. Best of 1 doesn't matter.
Of course there are. What do you mean?
Like,
if you have 3s, then there are stakes.
Doesn't
you
matter
either win
or
or you lose. But it's up to 3 games
besides Pain Gaming, there are stakes for everyone else. Pain is just numb because we keep losing in finals, but everyone else, it matters.
Yeah, the stakes is that it adds to your standings, which decides whether you make playoffs or not. That's the stakes of regular season games. Like, a best of one does that just as well as a best of two, because you just have a score at the end of it. Like,
no. Okay, so
it has standings in context of a season, not in the moment in regular season.
In a best of one, if you beat the team, at least you can rub it in their face. Even if, like, it does not matter that, say, Los Grandes has lost to every other team but Red. But anytime they meet Red, they can still tell Red, we beat you. You shut your mouth till you beat us 2 weeks or 4 weeks later. Yeah. Because till then, we beat you. Mm-hmm. In a best of two, they split the difference because Los fluked out one game and Red actually won the second one. And, oh, great, we drew. Like, nobody's going to talk about a draw when it comes to that. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
There's, like, literally no advantage to the best of two over the best of one or the best of three. Like, best of one has better stories, albeit it still sucks. Best of three actually has better gameplay. Best of two is like, we'll cop out, you know, like, neither here nor there. You know, it's like watching England at an international game.
Bro,
you know,
it's why do you always have to come for my country in these episodes? Why do you always have to bring it back to coming for my countrymen? That's at least we're like still deep into a major tournament, you know. Let's talk about Canada football one of these days. But
hey, Canada, Copa de Americas, we're doing well there. We made it through.
Oh, that's why the Americas. Oh, the Americas. Oh, the strongly the Americas. Yeah. Anyway, okay, right. Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this episode up because I've dropped a bomb on it and I've strained the relationships right at the very end. Get in the comments. Tell us about best of twos and tell me if I'm the crazy one here. Suck. And if anyone, everyone all hates them, and if you also hate draws. Anyway, so thank you everyone for watching. This is
also enlighten Trajan about Copa de Americas, please. It's a good cup.
Bro, literally, you're gonna get the Brazilians to come in and be like, "Oh yes, the North American football, that is where it's at for sure." I think you're gonna.
It's not North American.
Yeah, but like they're not gonna come be like, "Oh, we're such a strong league." They're not gonna. This is such a strong.
Bro, Messi's playing for Argentina there right now
because he's retired. Basically, he's already won the World Cup, bro. Doesn't
do better than English footballers.
You said it better than. Are you claiming that the Copa Americas is better than the Premier League right now? Because let's not.
I'm just saying Messi's the GOAT and he's not playing in the
he's not playing in
right now, is he?
Right, let's stop this. Okay, it's not a football podcast. Okay, right, thank you everyone for watching. If you want to ask questions and have them answered on the podcast, jump into our community Discord and answer the podcast questions channel and follow us on CBLOL English on Twitter and on TikTok and CBLOL_English on Twitch and Twitter. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Surfchat and RMC for joining me, and we will see you next week for another episode. We don't have any games to plug. There will be no games this weekend, remember, as we are in the break week, but we will still be doing
Academy.
Podcast. There is Academy, so that will be live on our
Monday,
Twitch channel
Tuesday.
With RMC, potentially 404, and anyone else who wants to jump on Monday, Tuesday. So jump on for that, and we will see you for another podcast episode next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.